Welcome back, shop rats. Today, here on Talk About It Tuesday, we're going to talk about some of the struggles that newbies have when they're first learning how to do fabrication and restoration on these cars. Let's watch the show intro. We'll see you in about 27.2 seconds. I'm Mike, and this is My Car Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
On one of the MKS chat places, I don't know if it was over on the Face thing or if it was here on the channel community tab, one of the things that I mentioned that is a vicious cycle for people is a lack of experience keeps me from doing the work, and not doing the work keeps me from gaining experience. And I think when you've done stuff long enough, especially when you're fabricating, you recognize that anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and a good fabricator minimizes that, but also knows how to compensate for that. And I've heard so many of the channels that I watch that do fabrication, which I don't watch much anymore because I just don't have the time, but there are a few that I still do. But anyway, all of those channels, all of those fabricators, without fail, say the same thing. By experience, you learn what's normal. By experience, you learn how to compensate. By experience, you learn how to minimize the mistakes, but you're always going to make mistakes. And so often I see one of the biggest mistakes that a newbie makes is they have unreal expectations of what a finished product should look like. There's a series here on the channel called How to Do Fabrication That Doesn't Suck, and I think that's worth checking out if you haven't seen it, because the only way to do fabrication that doesn't suck is to do fabrication that does suck and just keep fabricating until it sucks less and less and less. And there are certain perfectionists in the world who will tell you that your work looks like crap and it's crude and it's this and it's that and blah blah blah. Well, you know what? Bite me. At the end of the day, if you're having fun and enjoying what you're doing and it's functional and structurally sound, who cares? Because you're there to learn, which is ironic, but that's another subject for another time. So, you make a patch, you put it on the car, and you're disappointed with the fitment, and it doesn't look exactly like you want. You have a choice. You can say, good enough, or you can say, all right, now I've made my practice piece. I'll make another one. And if that one doesn't fit, you can either use it and be satisfied with that, or you can say that was your second practice piece, on and on. I tend to not make many practice pieces anymore. I tend to be satisfied with what I'm making, with what it looks like, and I know what looks now may not look the best, but I also know by experience, by the time I do the finish work and everything else that's going to happen, that it's going to turn out way better than you think it would. I always try to encourage people to keep after it, to keep trying, to keep doing, and don't lose sight of the big picture. If one little patch in your floor or one little patch down under your car or even one little patch on a quarter panel doesn't look exactly right, remember the old body shop saying, Bondo and paint will make us what we ain't. Now, we don't want Bondo that's 10 feet thick, but we have to realize that if we're really, really, really concerned about perfection when it comes to metal finishing, we've got to spend a ton of time practicing, or we have to compensate in some way. And I'm not a huge proponent of gallons and gallons of mud, but what I am saying is, for example, the floor pans on stitches. I could spend a lot more time and do a much better job. I think those floor pans look pretty respectable. I could make them perfect, but what the heck for? It's going to be shot with something, a thick undercoating like lizard skin, sound deadener, on the bottom. It's going to be shot with maybe the same product on the top, and then have maybe boom mat or something else put on top of that, and then jute backing, and then carpet. And how much of it are you going to see? So you'll learn on a project in the scope and the magnitude of what we're tackling with a car that was, for many people, totally beyond repair. You learn how to make shortcuts so that you can get her done and get the job done without spending 72.6 years finishing the project. It's not compromise necessarily, it's wisdom. You don't want to spend 72.6 weeks making a patch this big to go on a floor. It's a freaking floor pan. Good enough is usually good enough. One of the things I have found is something that really bothers me right now, I might not even remember in a year. There are times when I go back and look at some of the things that I've done on cars that I've got further along in the completed stage, and I'll go, oh man, I forgot I did that there. You tend to, at least I tend to, not remember every little detail of the project. That's another newbie mistake, is to think that I'm not going to be able to sleep at night because that weld wasn't ground perfectly there in that spot where nobody's going to see it anyway. Well, if you want to lose sleep over that, that's your choice. But don't spend too much time obsessing on the details like that. There are details that matter, and most of the time in a lot of this fabrication, those details don't matter. You've heard me say this multiple times on the channel. Contexts are not those texts you get from your relatives in prison. Context is what takes a small piece of a project and puts it into the big picture of the project so that you can keep things in perspective. Think about what you're working on. Think about where it is in the scope of the project. Think about where it is on the vehicle. Think about where you're at with your own skill sets and your abilities. Constantly stretch and improve yourself, but don't drive yourself crazy with perfection, because it's more about the journey than it is about the destination. And I think that's another thing we forget, is if we're so obsessed with the end product that we're losing sight of having fun with what we're doing right now, then we might want to just take a step back and think about it. Is the way you're doing the project fun for you? Is the process of rebuilding and restoring and preserving, or whatever it is you're doing, is it fun? Because if it's not fun, it ain't gonna get done. And that's the bottom line. That's the insanity of the perfectionism that we often expect from ourselves, is we expect everything to be so good, we expect everything to be flawless, that we're not having any fun at all. And that's sad, because it prevents us and paralyzes us from actually ever doing anything and getting our hands dirty. Another newbie mistake is to do things on your vehicle and on your project to try to impress somebody else. At the end of the day, there's only one person you really need to impress. Not me, you. You need to impress yourself. Are you happy with what you just did? Do you see room for improvement? Do you look at it and say, it's functional, it does the job, it's not that in a crucial area on the project. Could I do better next time? Yes, but you know what? That's respectable. Hey, good enough. Move on. Move on to the next thing. Make the next patch. Learn from it. I've been doing metal work for a very, very long time. And I'm always learning something new. I'm always learning a new technique, or I'm always experimenting with something new, or a different technique, or there's always something to learn and something to try. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Who cares? Again, it's about stretching yourself and growing and learning and improving. The final thing I want to talk about newbie mistakes is kind of a two-pronged thing. But first of all, it is not knowing what's realistic when you're doing metalwork and fabrication and restoration, and you're comparing yourself to your perception of what other people do. Now, I'm preaching to the choir on this one, because I look at the work that so many other people do, and I think, phew, man, I will never be that good. I mean, I'm just average. I know that. I'm nothing special. I'm not super talented at metalwork or anything like that. I can knock it out and get the job done. I accept that about myself. It's more appropriate. It's more not appropriate. It's more important to be comfortable with who you are, know your limitations, and be okay with that. Comparison is satanic. It really is. It is comparing what I do to what somebody else does, and you'll never, ever measure up. I've never been a huge car show fan anyway, but I've had to work through a lot of things with car shows, because I always feel that the stuff that I have and the stuff that I do never, ever measures up to what all the cool kids are doing and what they have. I always feel like my projects are substandard, my cars are substandard, and I'm not saying all that to fish for any compliments. I'm just being honest. That's how I feel. I enjoy my stuff, and I need, and I have learned, and I'm learning to accept that if I'm satisfied with it, who cares if somebody else doesn't like it? It was an eye-opener for me many years ago when I had my 31 Ford Model A, which I painted myself, and I had the 68 Pro Street Dart GTS, which I had somebody else paint. And I had both cars at a car show, which is, quite frankly, rare. And I happened to be standing there as two of the judges were talking, and one of the judges was a friend of mine. And I just happened to hear the judge saying to my friend, "Boy, the paint job on that Model A sure is a lot nicer than the paint job on that Pro Street car." And my friend said, yeah, he painted the Model A himself, but he had so-and-so, I won't mention any names, paint the GTS. And this is what perked my ears up, and the judge said he should have painted the GTS himself. It would have turned out a lot nicer. Now, I'm not dissing the GTS. I was burned on that project. I was just burned out. I was so exhausted from years of all the heavy fabrication to Pro Street and tub that car and so forth. I just wanted to get the car painted and be done with it. So I'm satisfied with it, and I'm really glad it doesn't have a high-end show quality paint job. But what struck me and what stuck with me from all those years ago is the fact that the things that I judge substandard about myself and my own work, other people don't necessarily see that way, and I'm too hard on myself. You probably are too hard on yourself also. Don't talk yourself down. Be comfortable. Accept what you have, what you do. Screw the haters. Be good in your own skin. And learn to work through that self-criticism and self-loathing or whatever it is you do about what you do. Don't talk your work down. Be proud of it, because you know, at the end of the day, even if it's not the highest or the best quality work on earth, if the fact that you're doing it puts you in a league that is about beyond what 80% of most car guys and gals are doing. I mean, that's the reality. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. I hope that made some sense. I feel rather disjointed today, but just been processing a lot of the stuff that I hear newbies saying and so forth, and I want to encourage you guys, keep after it. Keep after it, and don't let anybody talk you down, especially you. All right, we're over on the Face thing. Instant Grandma, oh, she loves us. She likes to make us cookies. We're here on the You thing, so subscribe, hit the bell so you receive those notifications. And one more thing. It's probably one of the most important things in life. Don't forget. Rock!